Kai Musk stepped into Ms. Allen's classroom, his small hands trembling as they clutched the homemade rocket model he'd spent 3 weekends painstakingly building with his father. Today was show and tell, a day when he should have felt proud. But all Kai felt was a heavy weight in his chest, as if someone were pressing down on his ribcage. "Did your dad do it all for you? Or did you actually help?" Brady cut in, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Kai's face flushed. "I did most of it," he said, though that wasn't entirely true. His dad had helped a lot, especially with the tiny solar panels, but the crew compartment was Kai's idea, and he'd painted every detail himself. 2 months had passed since Tess, the teaching enhancement support system robot, rolled into the school's halls, and now camera crews were unloading gear, setting up to film. Zara stood beside him, her high ponytail swaying as she tilted her head curiously. "What are they here for?" she asked. Kai took a deep breath, trying to keep his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Mr. Davis said they're doing a story on Tess. Bullying's down 87% since she got here." "That's amazing," Zara said, her eyes lighting up. "Do you think they'll interview you?" Kai shrugged, but his stomach twisted. "Dunno," he replied, though deep down he knew it was likely. He'd never imagined Tess, born from his darkest days, would become this big. It all started with that dark blue journal with silver stars, where he'd scribbled the idea of a teacher robot after Brady trashed his rocket model. He'd thought those milk-smeared pages marked the end of his dreams, but his dad, Elon Musk, had seen something in them. The night before, at a SpaceX event, Prisha dropped a bombshell that left Kai reeling. Tess wasn't his dad's idea, it was his. "Your dad brought that soggy journal to us and said we had to build it," Prisha had said, eyes twinkling. "You wrote, ours monitor bullying, send videos to the principal, know everyone's names." Kai was still processing it. He'd thought his dad was the hero, turning his pain into a solution, but now he knew the truth. He'd planted the seed, even if it was just a desperate doodle. When Mr. Davis poked his head into class and said, "Kai, they want to interview you and your dad about Tess," his face flushed hot. He trudged to the meeting room where his dad was already seated across from Lisa Chen, a reporter with a friendly smile and warm voice. "Don't worry," Lisa said, noticing his unease. "Just talk like normal. Forget the camera." But how could he, with that black lens staring him down? The interview started easy, his hobbies, his dream of being a Mars settler. Then Lisa got serious. "Kai, can you tell us what school was like before Tess?" Kai glanced at his dad, who nodded encouragingly. He took a shaky breath. "I got bullied. They broke the rocket model I made with my dad, called me Rocket Boy and Alien. Then they threw my journal in milk, ruining all my Mars sketches." Saying it on camera felt raw, but also freeing, like shedding an old weight. "What about now?" Lisa asked. "It's different," Kai said, voice steadier. "People are nicer, not just to me, but to everyone. I've got friends, and we even started a space science club." Lisa turned to his dad about long-term plans. "We want Tess in schools nationwide within 5 years, Elon said. "But tech alone isn't enough. It has to shift culture, make kindness valued." Kai watched his dad, proud but surprised. He didn't mention Tess came from Kai, and part of Kai was grateful. He didn't want that spotlight, just wanted it to work. The news aired a week later, and Kai watched with his dad on the couch, sharing a bowl of popcorn. Seeing himself on TV was weird, his voice smaller than he thought, but more confident than he'd expected. "They made it sound like it was all your idea," Kai said as it ended. Elon chuckled. "Media simplifies things, but you and I know the truth." The next morning, Kai's phone buzzed with texts from Zara. "You're trending!" The coolest part is the nose opens up, Kai continued, finding his voice a little more. He carefully lifted the hatch, revealing the detailed interior. Inside, there's space for astronauts and supplies for the long trip to Mars. A few kids leaned forward, and for a fleeting moment, Kai felt a spark of hope. Maybe they actually thought it was cool. But then Brady spoke again. "Does your dad know you took his stuff to school?" Laughter erupted from a few others. The clip went viral, millions of views, and hundreds of messages flooded in from kids everywhere. "I get called names for my wheelchair. No one sits with me because my clothes aren't nice. Teachers don't help when I'm mocked for my accent." Reading them, Kai's chest tightened. He showed them to his dad. "Dad, they all need help," he said, voice cracking. "They're asking when their schools get tests." Elon scrolled through, face grim. "We're trying, but we can't move faster. Each test needs custom programming and costs a lot." "What about these kids then?" Kai pressed, a new sense of duty rising in him. Elon paused, then said, "Maybe you're the right person to find another way while we wait." Kai blinked. "Me? How?" "You get it from the inside," Elon replied. "Sometimes the best solutions come from people like that." Kai couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day in math, he zoned out, doodling ideas for a website. Share your story. Find help. Ms. Allen caught him, but didn't scold. "What's this?" she asked. Kai hesitated, then spilled, "After the news, tons of kids messaged me about being bullied. I want to help, but Tess can't get everywhere yet." Ms. Allen smiled. "So you're brainstorming a workaround? Share it with the class." Kai stood up front, not shaking for once. "I want to make a website where kids can tell their stories and get advice," he said. Zara raised her hand. "I can code. We could do it together." Brady, now a reluctant ally, chimed in, "Or a pledge for schools to sign." Ideas poured out. Anti-bullying videos, a parent section, school solutions. They named it Rocket Kids because, as Kai put it, even if you fall today, you can reach the stars tomorrow. After school, his dad was so excited, he called tech friends for a meeting at a Palo Alto cafe. Kai pitched, voice shaky but clear. A red-haired woman nodded. "I can build the platform in a week." A guy with glasses added, "Needs moderators for safety." "I'll fund it," Elon said. A week later, Rocket Kids launched. Kai and his friends were the first members. He wrote about his broken rocket and ruined journal. Brady shared his journey from bully to understanding. Brady's post, "I used to be a bully," became the most read. The site spread fast, thanks to his dad and tech leaders sharing it. Within a month, Rocket Kids had thousands of members across all 50 states and a few countries. Kids shared stories, supported each other, suggested ideas for their schools. Kai appeared on Kids TV, always answering why Rocket Kids, with, "Because even if you fall today, you can reach the stars tomorrow." At school, Kai and his friends worked on the site during lunch, with Ms. Allen guiding it as a tech project. Brady got good at comforting bullied kids, admitting to Kai, "Reading what they go through makes me feel bad about how I treated you." Kai smiled. "People can change. That's what this is about." That night, cooking spaghetti with his dad, Kai asked, "Could Rocket Kids help more kids than Tess?" Elon nodded. "Tess stops bullying at one school. Rocket Kids brings hope to thousands right now. Sometimes the best tech is community." Kai stirred the sauce, pride and responsibility settling on his shoulders, not heavy, but motivating. From a ruined journal, Tess spread, and Rocket Kids was born, proving his small idea could change the world. Kai's face burned, but he tried to hold steady. "Actually, "My dad helped me make this for show and tell," he said, his voice stronger. "He says Mars will need scientists, engineers, doctors, people who build and solve problems." Kai stood in the hallway of Westlake Academy, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on Tess as she rolled past a group of first graders crowding around her, showing off their drawings, her green screen lit up with a simple smile, her gentle voice chiming, "Very nice, Ethan. How did you make that star so bright?" The kids giggled, vying to share their stories, and Kai felt a warmth spread through his chest. Just a year ago, he was Rocket Boy, the kid mocked, shoved, and stripped of everything he cherished. Now, Tess, the robot he'd unknowingly sparked with a scribble in a milk-soaked journal, had become a fixture in the school, and beyond that, a beacon of hope for thousands of other kids. He still remembered the moment Prisha dropped the truth at the SpaceX event, surrounded by important people in suits and white lab coats marveling at a new Mars habitat model. "Tess was your idea," Prisha had said, her eyes sparkling behind green glasses. "Your dad brought that wrecked journal to us and said we had to build it." Kai had stood there, stunned, the floor seeming to shift beneath him. He'd always thought his dad, Elon Musk, was the hero, the one who turned his pain into a solution. But no, it was Kai who'd sketched that teacher robot after Brady trashed his rocket model with shaky words, "Monitor bullying, send videos to the principal, know everyone's names." That idea, born from despair and tear-stained pillows, was now changing the world. Brady stepped up beside him, snapping Kai out of his thoughts. "Pretty cool, huh?" Brady said, his voice soft, stripped of the old arrogance. "How much things have changed because of Tess." Kai nodded, still amazed to stand next to Brady without fear. "Yeah, really cool," he replied. Brady flashed a rare, genuine smile. "My cousin's school gets Tess next month. He can't wait. He's had a rough time there." Kai looked at Brady, a mix of strangeness and pride washing over him. "That's great," he said. "Tell him it'll get better. I told him about Rocket Kids, too. He joined yesterday." Rocket Kids. The name still gave Kai chills whenever he thought about it. From a doodle scratched out during math class, it had grown into an online community with over 100,000 members worldwide, where kids shared bullying stories, found support, and offered solutions. Kai remembered standing in front of his class, trembling but determined, pitching the idea to Ms. Allen and his peers. Zara offered to code, Brady suggested an anti-bullying pledge, and within a week, thanks to his dad and tech friends, the site was live. Kai wrote the first post about his broken rocket and ruined journal, but also how things changed. Brady wrote, "I used to be a bully," owning his mistakes, and it became one of the most read pieces. Every day Kai got hundreds of messages from kids everywhere. "I'm left out for being different. I'm scared to go to school. Thanks to Rocket Kids, I don't feel alone." Reading them, his heart clenched, but it also swelled with responsibility. He wasn't just a victim anymore. He was a bringer of hope. That night, washing dishes with his dad after spaghetti, Kai asked, "Dad, why didn't you say Tess was my idea?" Elon stopped wiping a plate and turned to him. "I wanted you to see your idea mattered. Not because you're my son, but because your mind is that incredible." He saw Zara nod, Tyler lean in for a better look. "The first Mars colony might only have about 100 people," Kai went on, a flicker of bravery rising. "They'll have to grow their own food and make oxygen from Martian soil. It'll be the greatest adventure in human history." "Thank you, Kai. Very interesting," Ms. Allen said, motioning him back to his seat. As he walked, he felt eyes on him, and for the first time, they didn't seem hostile. A few kids even looked impressed. Kai stared at his dad, tears welling up but held back. "But it was just a drawing," he said. "Every great invention starts with an idea," Elon replied, eyes alight. "When I saw that sketch in your ruined journal, I knew it'd work. You tackled bullying in a way no adult thought of, not with rules or punishment, but with constant watching and caring." Kai's chest swelled with pride and disbelief. "So everything, Tess, Rocket Kids, started from that drawing?" "It was the spark," Elon said. "But what happened next was all of us. You, me, Prisha, your friends, even Brady." Kai thought about Brady, now one of his closest friends, something he'd never imagined. At Brady's trampoline park birthday, Kai had lingered outside clutching a gift, a space book, stomach knotted with nerves. But when Brady shouted, "You actually came!" and dragged him into dodgeball, Kai realized Brady wasn't faking. He'd changed, not just from fear of Tess, but from learning something deeper. "I used to think you had to be tough to avoid getting picked on," Brady said during science, working on a solar system project together. "But your dad was right. Strength isn't hurting people." Kai grinned. "Dad says that a lot." Tess was now in 50 schools, with hundreds more on a wait list. But Rocket Kids reached further, touching places Tess couldn't yet. Kids printed anti-bullying pledges, started space science clubs, stood up for each other. Kai became a tour guide for principals visiting to see Tess, explaining how she worked with a confidence he'd never had. One day, Brady joined a tour telling guests, "Tess helped me too. I wasn't nice before, but she taught me to think about how others feel." Kai looked at Brady, surprised and touched. "You mean that?" he asked later. Brady nodded. "Before Tess, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. Now I see it differently." That night, driving home, Kai told his dad about Brady. "Sounds like he's growing up," Elon said. "Did you know this would happen when you made Tess?" "I hoped," Elon replied. "The best tech doesn't just fix problems, it helps people become better versions of themselves." Kai thought about his school now, not just less bullying, but brimming with kindness. Tess taught kids what rules couldn't, to care about each other. One afternoon, Kai spotted Tess in the library, helping third graders find books. He smiled, remembering she'd sprung from his scribbled drawing, an idea from pain and hope, blurred by milk, but clear enough to change everything. "You're doing something as big as going to Mars," his dad had said. "Mars can wait, but kids who need help need it now." Kai got it. He didn't have to grow up to change the world. He'd already started. At home, he opened Rocket Kids, reading a new message. "Thanks to you, I made my first friend," signed "Reaching for the Stars." His eyes stung, not from sadness, but pride. From his pain, a kindness revolution had begun, and he, a kid who once just wanted peace, was now leading the way. But then it all fell apart. His foot caught on something, Brady's leg, sticking out from under the desk. Kai crashed to the floor, the rocket model slipping from his hands and hitting the ground with a sickening crack. Laughter exploded around him like a storm. Kai looked up, seeing Brady pull his leg back with a smirk. The rocket model was now a wreck. The nose broken off, solar panels scattered. The crew compartment he'd poured his heart into crushed. "Oh, Kai, be careful, the missile," Alan said, rushing over, her tone gentle as if it were just a silly accident. "Class, settle down, it's just a mishap." But Kai knew, and Brady knew, it wasn't an accident. "Get your dad to make you a new one," Brady whispered, as Kai bent to pick up the pieces. He didn't cry, not there. He swallowed every emotion, gathering the shattered bits of his dream and stuffing them into his backpack. He sat through the rest of show and tell, through math, through reading, through lunch, where he sat alone as always. But when he got home and shut his bedroom door, the pain finally spilled out. Hot tears streamed down his face, not just for the rocket, but because he felt so small, so useless. His father built grand ships to conquer space, and Kai couldn't even protect a little model in a classroom. He shoved the wreckage into a drawer and climbed into bed, still in his clothes, wanting to escape the world. 3 weeks later, things got worse. Brady and his crew invented a new game called Alien, where they shoved Kai around the playground, snatched his stuff, and mocked him as a robot alien his dad had built. "He never cries," Kai overheard Brady tell Owen at lunch. "Real people cry when they hurt. He must be a robot from Mars." Kai stabbed his fork into his mac and cheese, trying not to let them see him trembling with anger and shame. The rocket model wasn't just a toy. It was his whole world, complete with tiny solar panels, meticulously painted thrusters, and a crew compartment he'd designed himself with foldable seats. It was a dream of Mars, a dream he shared with his father, the most famous rocket man in the world. But here at Westlake Academy, that dream meant nothing to the mocking stares and sharp words waiting for him. Then one day, Brady grabbed his backpack, pulling out a dark blue journal with silver stars on the cover, where Kai kept all his Mars ideas. "Plans for a Mars colony," Brady read aloud, mocking. "He's really gonna invade Earth." The journal was tossed across the cafeteria, landing in a puddle of spilled milk, the pages soaking, ink bleeding, months of work ruined. Kai stood there, frozen, feeling like his heart was melting with the ink. He wasn't Kai Musk, son of a genius anymore. He was just Rocket Boy, a weird kid with a famous dad, and at Westlake Academy, that would never change. Kai sat curled up on his bed, his backpack still slung over his shoulders, heavy as if it held his entire broken world. The dark blue journal with silver stars on the cover, once a safe haven for his dreams of Mars, now lay soggy in his hands, the ink smeared like unhealed wounds. Today, Brady and his crew had crossed a line. They didn't just yank his backpack or mock him as Martian or alien boy. They'd tossed his journal into a puddle of milk in the cafeteria, laughing as the pages soaked through and his painstaking sketches blurred before his eyes. Kai had stood there, frozen, feeling like someone had ripped his chest open. But he didn't cry, not in front of them. He'd learned that crying only made them gloat more. But now, in the quiet of his room, as the sound of his father's car rumbled up the driveway, the walls Kai had built to hide his pain began to crack. He heard his father's footsteps, Elon Musk, the man the world admired for his spaceships and grand visions. His dad was home early tonight, a rarity that Kai could hardly believe. Usually, his father worked late, leaving him with M. Patel, the babysitter who always tried to cheer him up with homemade granola bars. But tonight, his dad was here, and it made Kai feel both comforted and terrified. He didn't want his father to see him like this, weak, a failure, not the son his dad could be proud of. The bedroom door creaked open, and Kai quickly shut his eyes, pretending to sleep. "Kai, you awake, buddy?" His father's voice was soft, tender, in a way that made Kai's heart ache. He stayed silent, hoping his dad would leave, but then he felt the edge of the bed dip as his father sat beside him. A warm hand brushed the hair from his forehead, and that gentleness cut through the shell Kai had tried so hard to hold together. "And Patel said you didn't eat dinner," his dad said, his voice lowering with concern. "Rough day at school?" Kai opened his eyes, unable to pretend anymore. The faint hallway light spilled in, illuminating his father's face. Tired eyes that still sparkled, as if he could always see stars, even in the dark. "It's nothing, Dad," Kai whispered, his voice hoarse from holding back tears. "Just kid stuff." But his father didn't leave. He looked at him, long and steady, as if he could see right through Kai's defenses. "Your eyes are red," his dad said, not accusing but caring. "Have you been crying?" Kai turned his face away, ashamed. "I'm just tired." He didn't want his dad to know, didn't want him to see that he was a loser who couldn't handle the kids at school, couldn't protect the things he loved. His father built new worlds in the sky. What was Kai? He couldn't even keep his journal intact. But his dad didn't give up. He sat there, quiet for a moment, then said, "You know, sometimes the kids who get picked on when they're young are the ones who change the world when they grow up." He quietly sat at the desk in the back corner, trying to tuck the rocket model into the desk's compartment so no one would see it. "Keep your head up," his father had said that morning, his voice warm but distant, as if he didn't understand that here, lifting his head, only made Kai a clearer target. "What you've made is special. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Easy for him to say when he was Elon Musk, a man no one dared laugh at. But Kai wasn't his father. Kai couldn't stop himself. "Is that what happened to you?" he blurted out, instantly regretting it, afraid the question would disappoint his father. But his dad just smiled, a small, sad smile. "Something like that," he said, and the honesty in his voice made something break inside Kai. "Want to talk about it?" his dad asked, gentle but firm. Kai shook his head, but his heart was pounding, threatening to burst out of his chest. He wanted to tell him, desperately, but fear held him back. What if his dad thought he was weak? What if he was disappointed that Kai couldn't handle this on his own? But then he looked down at the journal in his hands, the crumpled pages, the sketches of Mars colonies he'd spent months perfecting, now a ruined mess, and he realized he couldn't stay silent anymore. Not when everything he cared about was being destroyed. Kai started, his voice trembling, eyes fixed on the floor. "I'm getting bullied at school." The words came out like a confession, heavy and painful. His face burned, tears welling up, but he couldn't stop. "They broke the rocket model I made with you at Show and Tell. They call me Rocket Boy and Alien. And today..." He lifted the journal, his hands shaking so hard he nearly dropped it. "They threw this in milk. All my drawings, my Mars ideas, they're ruined." Silence filled the room, and Kai felt like the earth stopped turning. He didn't dare look up, didn't dare meet his father's eyes. He was afraid of seeing disappointment, anger, or worse, pity. But then his dad let out a long, slow breath, like he was holding something back. "How long?" he asked, his voice calm but sharp, the way it got when he was working through a tough problem. "A while," Kai admitted, his voice so small it was almost inaudible. "Since the start of the school year, maybe." 3 months. 3 months he'd endured it alone, swallowing every hurt, pretending everything was fine. But now that he'd said it, he felt both relieved and terrified. Relieved to finally let the weight go, terrified of what came next. "Kai, look at me," his dad said, and he had to lift his head. His father's eyes weren't the disappointment he'd feared, but a deep sadness mixed with resolve. "Being bullied doesn't make you weak. Not telling anyone doesn't make you strong. It just means you're carrying it alone when you don't have to." His dad paused, as if he wanted to say more, then just gripped Kai's shoulder. "You don't have to do that." The tears finally fell, and this time Kai didn't try to stop them. He nodded, saying nothing, just feeling his father's hand on his shoulder. Steady, warm, like a promise that he wasn't alone anymore. For the first time in months, Kai felt a tiny, fragile spark of hope flicker in the darkness. He didn't know what his dad would do, but he knew somehow things would change. And that alone was enough to stop his trembling. Kai sat on the edge of his bed, his small hands gripping the soggy journal tightly, fingers trembling as if trying to hold on to something already lost. The dim light from the hallway spilled in, illuminating his face. Red-rimmed eyes and wet cheeks streaked with tears he could no longer hold back. He'd just confessed everything to his father, Elon Musk. The months of bullying, the shattered rocket model from show and tell. The journal filled with his Mars dreams thrown into a puddle of milk by his classmates. Each word had felt like a knife he was plunging into himself, both painful and liberating. He didn't dare look at his dad, terrified of seeing disappointment or pity in the eyes of the man he'd always idolized like a god. He was just a 10-year-old kid with big eyes and a fragile heart, a boy who always felt out of place in a crowd. Elon sat beside him, his hand resting on Kai's shoulder, silent for a moment that stretched on endlessly. Kai could hear his father's breathing, slow but heavy, as if he were trying to sort through the thousands of thoughts swirling in his mind. "How long?" Elon finally asked, his voice calm but sharp, the way it got when he was dissecting a technical problem at SpaceX. "A while," Kai whispered, "since the start of the school year. 3 months. 3 months he'd hidden it, endured it alone. Convinced himself his dad didn't need to know, that he was too busy with spaceships and dreams of conquering the skies to care about Kai's petty problems. Elon lifted his hand from Kai's shoulder and stood up, and in that moment, Kai's heart clenched. He thought his dad would walk away, leave him with his pain, the way he often left the house to dive into work. But then Elon turned back, his eyes blazing with something Kai couldn't name. Not anger, not disappointment, but a fierce determination. "All right," he said, his voice dropping low, full of power. "This stops now." Kai looked up, bewildered. "What are you going to do?" he asked, his voice shaky. "I'll call the school," Elon replied, his hand already clenching as if ready to act. "No, Dad, don't!" Kai shot up, panic surging. "That'll just make it worse. They'll call me a snitch, and they'll never leave me alone." Elon paused, staring at his son, and for the first time that night, Kai saw a flicker of pain cross his father's face. He sat back down, closer this time, as if trying to shield Kai from his own fear. "Then what do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice rising with a mix of helplessness and frustration. "I can't let this keep happening." Kai bit his lip, tears threatening again. "I want to be homeschooled," he blurted out. "Or switch schools. I just want out of there. Please." He looked at his dad, hoping he'd agree, that he'd pull him out of the hell that was Westlake Academy. Elon ran a hand through his hair. A familiar gesture Kai knew signaled deep stress. He went quiet, his eyes staring off into the distance, as if seeing a future only he could envision. Then he smiled, a small, enigmatic smile, full of meaning. "You know," he said, "I've got a better idea." Kai blinked, confused. "What idea?" he asked, his voice faltering with uncertainty. "A way to handle this," Elon replied, "not just for you, but for every kid who's bullied. But I'll need your help." Kai shook his head. "I don't understand. How can I help?" Elon leaned forward, his eyes lighting up the way they did when he talked about Mars or spaceships. "I think we can build something, a piece of tech, to change how schools deal with bullying. Not by punishing, not by running away, but by making it impossible to happen." Kai stared at his dad, his heart pounding. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice small but curious. "I need to think it through, talk to some people," Elon said, "but I need you to be brave a little longer. Can you do that?" Kai didn't know how to answer. Brave? He didn't feel brave. He felt small, weak, and exhausted. But when he looked into his dad's eyes that held the universe, that carried a belief in him, Kai nodded, just a slight dip of his head. "I'll try," he whispered. For the first time in months, a tiny spark pierced the darkness inside him. Not hope, not yet, but a sense that maybe, just maybe, his dad would find a way to fix things. "What's that, Rocket Boy? Another space toy?" Brady Thompson's voice cut through from behind, sharp as a knife in Kai's back. Brady, with his perfect hair and glowing expensive sneakers, was the king of the class. Kai didn't answer. He never did. Responding only made it worse. He felt a sharp poke in his back, but just bit his lip, trying to ignore it. Ms. Allen's clap broke the tension in the air. "Good morning, everyone. Take your seats." The next morning, Kai woke to the smell of pancakes wafting through the air. A strange thing, since his dad was rarely home in the mornings, let alone cooking. He shuffled to the kitchen and saw Elon standing there, wearing a plain black t-shirt instead of his usual work attire, flipping pancakes with a spatula. "Morning," he said, flashing a warm smile. "Hungry?" Kai nodded, sitting at the counter, still groggy and confused. "Blueberry and chocolate chip," Elon said, setting a stack in front of him. "I wasn't sure which you liked, so I made both." Kai looked at his dad, a mix of strangeness and warmth washing over him. "You're not going to work today?" he asked hesitantly. "Not this morning," Elon replied. "I took it off. We've got something more important to do first." "What?" Kai asked, his stomach tightening. Elon smiled, that same mysterious grin. "You'll see. Eat up. We're leaving in 20 minutes. Kai picked up his fork, but his mind raced. What was his dad planning? Last night's promise about a tech solution echoed in his head, but it was still too vague, too distant to grasp. When they got in the car, instead of turning toward school, Elon drove straight to SpaceX headquarters. Kai had been there plenty of times, but today felt different. They entered through a side door that opened only with his dad's fingerprint. A long hallway led them to a room Kai had never seen before, marked Advanced Projects Lab. Inside, engineers were working, but Elon waved them off. Everyone out for a few minutes, except Prisha. Kai glanced around, puzzled, until his dad introduced him to a woman with short black hair and bright green glasses. Kai, this is Prisha, lead engineer on our most advanced AI systems, Elon said. Prisha smiled warmly. Hi, Kai. Your dad talks about you all the time. Kai mumbled a reply, his mind still spinning. Elon turned to Prisha. I need your help with something, and it's a little unusual. Prisha raised an eyebrow, but stayed silent. I want us to design a teacher's assistant robot, Elon continued, for elementary and middle schools, one with a special ability. He glanced at Kai, and Kai's heart beat faster. It needs to monitor and record bullying. Kai froze, eyes wide. This was his dad's idea? A robot to protect him and other kids? A rush of mixed emotions surged through him, shock, doubt, and a tiny flicker of pride. Elon went on, discussing technical details with Prisha, image recognition, behavior analysis, but Kai only half listened. His mind drifted back to the days Brady shoved him down, mocked him, destroyed what he loved. And now his dad wanted to change it all, not just for him, but for everyone. As they left the lab, Kai couldn't hold back. Are you really making a robot for my school? Elon looked at him and smiled. Not just your school, but yeah, yours will be the first." Kai didn't say anything more, but inside, a small flame started to burn. Not certainty, but a belief that his dad, the man who turned dreams into reality, wouldn't let him hurt alone anymore. Kai sat in his dad's Tesla, eyes gleaming to the scenery as they pulled into the SpaceX compound. He still couldn't fully grasp what his father, Elon Musk, had said last night. Something about a technological solution to stop bullying. Something bigger than calling the school or moving him somewhere else. His heart pounded, not with the usual dread of heading to school, but with a strange mix of curiosity and doubt. His dad was always doing things no one expected. But this time, Kai couldn't picture how he'd fix his broken world. Kai let out a small breath of relief, but his stomach still churned when she announced they'd start with show and tell. They didn't go through the main entrance. Instead, Elon veered toward a side door, pressing his finger against a scanner. The door slid open, and Kai followed him down a long hallway, the cold white light from the ceiling making it feel like they were stepping into a spaceship. At the end was a room labeled Advanced Projects Lab. Inside, engineers bustled around glowing computer screens and scattered metallic devices. Kai felt tiny in this space, like a speck of dust lost in his father's universe. "Everyone out for a few minutes, except Prisha," Elon said, his voice carrying the confidence Kai had always admired. As the room cleared, a woman with short black hair and bright green glasses remained. "Kai, this is Prisha," Elon introduced, "lead engineer on our most advanced AI systems." Prisha smiled, her eyes warm and twinkling. "Hi, Kai. Your dad talks about you all the time." Kai mumbled a shy, "Hi," a wave of awkwardness rising inside him. He wasn't used to being noticed, not here, where everyone was a genius. Elon turned to Prisha, his tone serious but brimming with energy. "I need your help with something, and it's a little unusual." Prisha raised an eyebrow but didn't interrupt. "I want us to design a teacher's assistant robot," he continued, "for elementary and middle schools." Kai's heart beat faster. A robot? Was he serious about a real robot? "Not just any robot," Elon added, glancing at Kai with a meaningful look. "It needs a special ability to monitor and record bullying." Kai froze, mouth open but silent. Was this the idea his dad hinted at last night? A robot to protect him, to stop Brady and his crew from wrecking everything he cared about? A rush of mixed feelings hit him. Amazement at how big this was, doubt about whether it could work, and a flicker of pride that his dad was doing this for him. Prisha nodded, tapping her chin lightly. "Interesting. We could adapt the image recognition from the Mars rover, meant for geological analysis, to track human behavior and flag concerning patterns." "Exactly," Elon replied, his voice buzzing like when he talked about Mars missions. "And it has to be friendly, non-threatening, something kids and teachers will accept." Prisha nodded again. They need to see it as helpful, not invasive. They dove into details: facial recognition, behavior analysis, secure data streaming, but Kai only caught bits and pieces. His mind flashed back to being shoved on the playground, his backpack snatched, the taunts of Rocket Boy. Oh, could a robot stop that? He wasn't sure, but his dad's blazing eyes made him want to believe. "How long for a prototype?" Elon asked. Prisha thought for a moment. 2 weeks for a basic version, longer for a polished one. 1 week, Elon said firmly. Prisha laughed. "Why am I not surprised? I'll need people from other projects." "Take whatever you need," Elon shot back. "This is top priority." As they left the lab, Kai couldn't hold it in. "Are you really making a robot for my school?" Elon looked at him and smiled. "Not just your school, but yeah, yours will be the first." Kai didn't say more, but a warmth crept into him. His dad wasn't just comforting him with words. He was acting, turning Kai's pain into something bigger. He was still nervous, still afraid it might not work, but for the first time, he didn't feel alone. He'd begged to go last, hoping a few kids might leave early for band practice or something, but luck wasn't on his side. One by one, the others went up. Emma showed off her soccer trophy, Tyler brought his pet turtle, Zara performed a self-choreographed dance. Kai watched them with blank eyes, hands gripping the desk's edge, palms slick with sweat. Then it was his turn. "Kai, you're up," Ms. Allen said with an encouraging smile. But that smile couldn't ease the fear choking him. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind for Kai. Every day after school, his dad picked him up, and they headed to SpaceX. He sat in the lab, watching engineers piece together the robot, now called TESS, short for Teaching Enhancement Support System. On day 4, Prisha called him over, showing him design sketches. "What do you think?" she asked. "Scary or friendly?" Kai studied the 2 drawings. The first was a boxy thing with eyes stiff and cold. The second was softer, with rounded edges, a screen for a face, and wheels to roll around. "The second one," he said, "but maybe make it a bit taller, desk height, so kids can talk to it eye to eye." Prisha grinned. Good call. His heart raced. His idea, a tiny suggestion from a 10-year-old, was being heard, shaping what his dad called the solution. Each night, he and his dad ate dinner together, then spread papers across the living room table to work on a Mars presentation. "Mars will be humanity's greatest adventure," Elon said as they built slides. "What do you think kids your age would like best?" Kai pondered. "Probably the dangerous stuff, dust storms, radiation, how we'd survive, what we'd eat, where we'd sleep." Elon nodded, and they added those details, plus a sketch of a special toilet Kai had designed in his ruined journal. "You remember that?" Kai asked, surprised. "Of course," Elon replied. "Smart idea." The best days were watching TESS take shape. Kai stood in the lab as engineers attached the metal frame, added wheels, and installed the Brain, a powerful computer with custom AI. A week in, Prisha announced, "Today's the big test. Tess will try reading emotions from faces." Kai watched as Tess aimed its camera at engineers acting out expressions: happy, sad, angry, scared. Tess's screen lit up. Happiness detected, 92% confidence. Then Prisha said, "Now the hard part. Let's see if she can spot bullying." The engineers staged scenes. One pushed another, one snatched an object, one hurled an insult. Each time Tess's screen flashed, "Potential bullying behavior detected, recording incident." A jolt ran through Kai. It actually worked. Tess wasn't just an idea. It was real, and it could see what he'd been through. "She's learning fast," Prisha told Elon, "but she struggles with subtle bullying, like exclusion or sarcastic compliments." "Keep refining," Elon said. "We need her to catch everything." 3 days before the presentation, Tess was finished. Standing about 4 feet tall with a smooth white shell and a friendly green screen face that could show expressions, she was more impressive than Kai had imagined. Prisha suggested, "Let's introduce Tess to Kai properly." They positioned him in front of Tess's camera. Her screen glowed, and a pleasant voice chimed, "Hello, Kai Musk. Nice to meet you." Kai grinned, unable to help himself. "Hi, Tess." Prisha suddenly said, "Kai's sad today." Tess's camera zoomed in, analyzing. Emotional state is excitement, not sadness. 87% confidence. Kai cheered. She got it right. She's so smart. Prisha nodded. She'll get smarter with student interaction. Kai looked at Tess, feeling like he was seeing a piece of himself. Something born from his pain, but stronger than he'd ever dreamed. He didn't know if Tess would truly change school, but standing there in the glowing lab, he felt pride, nerves, and a small belief that maybe, just maybe, things were about to be fixed. Kai stepped into Ms. His legs felt like lead as he walked to the front, clutching the rocket model, trying to stop his hands from shaking. Alan's classroom, the morning after the presentation, his feet heavy as lead, his heart hammering in his chest. Yesterday, he and his dad, Elon Musk, had unveiled Tess, the teaching enhancement support system robot, to the entire 5th grade class at Westlake Academy. He'd stood on stage, trembling but resolute, explaining how Tess would record bullying incidents and alert the principal and parents. Now, Tess was officially live, quietly rolling through the halls with her friendly green screen and all-seeing cameras. But as the classroom door closed behind him, Kai didn't know if this would truly change anything or just make him a bigger target. He slid into his usual desk at the back corner, head down to avoid the stares he was sure were aimed his way. Then, something strange happened. "Hi, Kai," a voice said, not Brady's mocking tone, but Zara's, the girl who sometimes sat with him at lunch. Kai looked up, startled. "Hi," he replied, his voice small but tinged with confusion. Before he could process it, Tyler, the kid with the pet turtle, dragged a chair over. "Tess is awesome," Tyler said, eyes gleaming. "Do you think she could play chess?" Kai blinked, hardly believing his ears. "Maybe," he answered, feeling like he was dreaming. A few other kids pulled chairs closer, whispering questions about Tess, Mars, and how he and his dad had built her. For the first time in months, Kai didn't feel like the weird rocket boy. He felt like he belonged. But his eyes couldn't help drifting to Brady Thompson, his former nightmare. Brady sat at a front table, head low, his usually cocky shoulders hunched as if trying to shrink himself. He didn't speak, didn't smirk, didn't mutter to Owen like usual. A mix of emotions swirled in Kai. Relief that Brady wasn't a threat, but doubt that this silence would last. Tess might scare Brady, but could she change him? Kai wasn't sure, and that uncertainty gnawed at him all morning. At recess, Kai stepped into the hallway and nearly jumped when Tess rolled toward him, trailed by a gaggle of curious younger kids. "Hello, Kai," Tess said, her smooth voice chiming from her speakers. Her screen displayed a simple smile. "How are you today?" Kai grinned, unable to help it. "I'm good," he replied, still amazed that this thing he'd helped his dad and Prisha create was here, in his school. The kids crowded around, peppering him with questions. "How smart is she? Can she play games? Does she have feelings?" Kai explained, echoing Prisha. "She's AI, so she learns from experience. The more she talks to people, the more she understands us." Mia, a quiet girl who usually ate lunch alone, asked timidly, "Does she know when someone's being bullied?" Kai nodded. "Yeah, she watches how people act and records if someone's getting picked on." "Then what?" another kid asked. "She sends the video to Mr. Davis and the parents," Kai said. The kids exchanged wide-eyed looks, a few glancing at Brady, who stood at the group's edge, silently watching. Kai noticed, and part of him hoped Brady felt the weight of this shift. In class, Ms. Allen was different too. She called on Kai more, actually listening when he talked about growing plants in Martian soil for a science project. "Expand on that idea," she said, instead of brushing him off like before. Warmth spread through Kai, not just because of Tess, but because he was starting to be seen as himself, not just Elon Musk's son. Lunch was the most surreal moment. Kai sat at his usual spot, braced for another solitary meal, when Zara plunked her tray down beside him. "Your Mars habitat design yesterday was cool," she said. "I liked how you added hydroponics." Kai gaped. "Thanks. I read about how astronauts grow food on the space station." Then Tyler joined, lugging an encyclopedia about space to show Kai. Soon, 5 kids crowded his table, chattering about Mars, robots, and space travel. "This is a model of Starship," Kai began, his voice so soft it was nearly drowned out by the classroom whispers. "It's the rocket my dad's company is building to take people to Mars someday." "Speak up, Kai." "I can't hear you," Ms. Allen prompted. Kai cleared his throat, summoning every ounce of courage. "This rocket will be the biggest ever made. I built this model with my dad. It took 3 weekends." Kai couldn't believe it. From invisible, he was now at the busiest table in the cafeteria. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Brady sitting with Owen, but without the usual posse. Brady quietly tore his bread into bits, his eyes flicking toward Kai. Unreadable. After school, his dad picked him up as usual. "How'd it go today?" Elon asked as Kai climbed in. "Different," Kai said, hesitant. "Different, better or worse?" "Better," Kai admitted. "People talked to me and Brady stayed away." Elon nodded. "Good, but the goal isn't just to scare him, it's to help him understand." Kai wasn't sure what that meant, but the day's joy was too big to dwell on it. A week and a half later, something unexpected happened. Kai was reading in the library when Brady approached. Kai tensed instantly, gripping his book, ready for a taunt. But Brady just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking smaller than usual. "I just want to talk," Brady said, voice low. Kai didn't reply, waiting. "Your robot. It's pretty cool," Brady went on, eyes darting away. Thanks," Kai said, still wary. "Does it really record everything? All the time?" Brady asked, his voice catching slightly. Kai thought about it. Truth was, Tess only recorded when she detected bullying, but he decided to let Brady wonder. "It sees what it needs to see," he said. Brady nodded, then blurted, "I'm sorry about your rocket and your journal. That wasn't cool. I don't know, it was stupid." Kai froze, stunned. Brady Thompson, the kid who'd made his life hell, was apologizing? "Yeah, it was stupid," Kai replied, finding his voice. Brady looked at his feet. "My dad said I have to invite you to my birthday next week, but you probably don't want to come." Kai didn't know what to say. Was this real or a trap? "I'll think about it," he replied. Brady nodded and walked off, leaving Kai with a million questions. That night, he told his dad. "He apologized," Kai said, still reeling. "But I don't know if he means it or if his parents made him." Elon stirred the spaghetti sauce. They'd been cooking together lately and said, "People can change if they have a reason. Do you want to go?" Kai mulled it over. "I'm not sure. What if it's to embarrass me?" "Tess can't protect you from everything," Elon said gently. "In the end, you have to decide who to trust." The next day, Brady nodded at Kai in the hall. No smirk, no sarcasm. In science, working on a solar system project, Brady even let Kai pick first. "I'll take Jupiter," Brady said, then added, "unless you want it, since you're the space expert." "Mars is my favorite," Kai replied. Brady grinned. "Jupiter's big storm is cool. That great red spot." "It's been going for hundreds of years," Kai said, and Brady nodded. "That's awesome." Kai realized Tess wasn't just changing behavior, she was changing how people thought. He wasn't the outcast anymore, he was respected. And Brady? Not quite a friend, but no longer an enemy. As the week passed, Kai decided to go to Brady's birthday, not because he fully trusted him, but because he wasn't afraid anymore. And that, he realized, was the biggest change Tess had brought. Kai stood by the classroom window, eyes locked on the Channel 7 news truck parked in Westlake Academy's courtyard.
Little hands shaking tight, holding dreams built in the night. Tiny thrusters painted bright, a world beyond the stars in sight. But laughter cut like comet trails, mocking words, their heavy sails. Tried to hide, tried to run, but his fight had just begun. They called him names, tried to break his flight, but a fire burned deep inside. Through the wreckage, through the fall, a voice inside was standing tall. Rocket boy, don't you cry, even when the stars feel far from sight. Rocket boy, keep reaching high. Your dreams will light the endless sky. They tore you down, but look at you now, stronger than gravity, breaking the ground. Rocket boy, oh, rocket boy, you were made to fly. Broken pieces, shattered heart, doubted he could play a part. But through the storm, through the pain, a dream was built from hurt and rain. With circuits bright and voices kind, he built a way to heal in time. Not just for him, but for the world, for every lost and lonely girl. They called him names, tried to break his flight, but a fire burned deep inside. Through the wreckage, through the fall, a voice inside was standing tall. Rocket boy, don't you cry, even when the stars feel far from sight. Rocket boy, keep reaching high. Your dreams will light the endless sky. They tore you down, but look at you now, stronger than gravity, breaking the ground. Rocket boy, oh, rocket boy, you were made to fly. And now the halls whisper your name, not in mockery, but in faith. The ones who laughed now understand. You changed the world with your own hands. No more hiding, no more shame. The stars will always know your name. And every child who walks alone now sees a light to guide them home. Rocket boy.